just wish something would come to a stop because innocent people are getting hurt.
More gunfire linked to the tow truck industry.
Tonight, a vehicle riddled with bullets, investigating a string of shootings and the efforts to stop the violence. Good evening. There have been 3 shootings in 24 hours, all linked to the towing industry.
It has reignited concerns about a tow truck turf war. Authorities calling it a serious issue. CTV's Mike Walker spoke to the brother of a man who was shot and joins us live with the story. Mike.
Nathan, Michelle, the brother of the tow truck driver who was shot here at Markham and Lawrence last night, says he's lucky to be alive and is demanding more action to address the issue. At this point, investigators are trying to determine if these 3 incidents are connected. A tow truck riddled with bullet holes. Police say more than 10 shots were fired, seriously injuring the driver.
To my brother, I don't see why anybody would want to hurt him. He's mid-20s, he's got kids, he's just trying to provide for his family.
The victim's brother asked not to be identified because he is worried about the increasing violence in the industry. He was able to speak with his brother in hospital this morning.
He was hit a couple times, and thankfully he was wearing a bulletproof vest, which ultimately saved his life. He's not a first responder. I don't know why he even has to wear a vest in that industry.
It happened just before 11:45 last night near Markham and Lawrence. Police say the shooter was in a dark-colored vehicle. It's the 3rd tow truck industry-related shooting in this area of Scarborough in just over 24 hours. 2 people showed up to hospital Thursday evening after police say they were shot hours earlier at a tow truck yard at Markham and Passmore. A dark-colored vehicle was seen leaving the scene. And on Wednesday night, a tow truck driver suffered serious injuries after he was shot at a tow truck yard near Markham and Shepherd. Police are still trying to determine if these incidents are connected.
I think it's pathetic. These guys are out here, one, trying to help people who have had an unfortunate day. It needs to be dealt with quick because the public is starting to worry.
Toronto police launched a tow truck task force in August to crack down on the escalating violence and crime in the industry. The province has also implemented new certification requirements. In 2024, Toronto police reported 62 shooting incidents related to the tow truck industry. That represents 13% of all shootings in the city last year.
There's a deep involvement of the criminal element in the towing business. But again, the main reason is because they're allowed to overbill. That makes the availability of money to them that they don't have in other industries.
John Henderson is the former coordinator of the Fair Towing Task Force. He believes there needs to be policies to regulate billing and better systems in place to track all the interactions between tow truck companies and customers.
If the illegal activity in the towing was monitored to such an extent that you can't send an exorbitant bill, why would the criminal element be in there?
I just wish something would come to a stop because innocent people are getting hurt.
Now, police say while these incidents are alarming, it represents a small segment of the industry engaged in turf wars at this point. Police have not released any descriptions for the suspects in any of these 3 latest shootings. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Also tonight, 2 people found dead inside a Mississauga home. We'll take you live to the scene where the investigation continues tonight. What police and neighbors have to say about what happened.
But first, we turn to a mother's heartbreaking and emotional appeal for the return of her 3-year-old son.
The boy's father accused of taking him halfway across the world in a case of suspected parental abduction. CTV's Beth McDonnell is in studio with the details. Beth.
Michelle, Toronto police say 3-year-old Valentino and his father traveled to Delhi, India in July. This is their last known location. The boy's mother thought they were going for a vacation, but never returned.
And then I started to realize this never was a vacation, and just have to deal with this every day is a torture. I have no words for explaining that.
Since July, 3-year-old Valentino has been far away from his mother. Camila Vilas Boas says only once since then has she been able to speak with her son on a video call.
He would come to the camera with one eye closed. Mom, can I come home? Please, can I come home? And It was breaking my heart because all he wants was come home, and there's nothing I could do to bring him back.
Toronto police say her ex-husband, 48-year-old Kapil Sunak, went to Delhi, India with the boy and never returned, despite being ordered to come back August 8th. Sunak is now wanted for abduction by parent custody order.
Trust me, this is not about you. This is not about me. This is only about him. Only about him. We are adults. We can deal with our problems, but he's just growing up.
Police here tell us they're working with Interpol and collaborating with the RCMP and Indian officials to track down Sunak and the boy. If found, steps will be made to bring Valentino back and possibly arrest Sunak. Boas says she has permission from authorities to go to India and bring Valentino back, but it's not safe for her to do so.
Once a week I come here on Sundays, and is to pray, to ask God to bring him back.
As time goes by, Boas visits Valentino's room, holding on, trying to be strong. He'll be home soon.
Now, Mom is waiting for him. Mom is waiting for you. And your dinosaurs, they are all waiting for you too.
Police say they can't share more information about working with Interpol, but Boas says Interpol could step in if the pair were to go to an airport. Officers hope getting the information out about this difficult situation will apply pressure and engage the community here and across Canada to bring Valentino home. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Still ahead, Canada joins the fight against the raging wildfires in California. The plan to help protect our neighbors to the south coming up.
But first, here at home, they're lined up and ready to go. The city's fleet of salting and snow clearing equipment. We are expecting snow this evening, and officials say they will deploy their crews as required. Right now, mostly cloudy as we anticipate the snow and take a live look at the city, but the flurries could start flying at any moment. And the big question is, how much are we talking here? Lindsay Morrison joins us live with all the details. I see a lot of blue behind you, Lindsay.
Yeah, the system's moving in, Michelle, and with this, we could get a couple of centimeters of fresh snow falling tonight and into tomorrow morning. This is a big system. The majority of it is going to stay stateside. However, we are going to get some fresh snow on the ground. Worth mentioning that there is a winter weather travel advisory from Pickering over toward Napanee, and that's where 5 to 10 centimeters of snow could fall. In Toronto, closer to 3 to 5 centimeters expected. Temperature-wise, we are warmer today than we've been all week long. It's going to be a mild weekend. Overnight tonight, -4 degrees. Tomorrow, we could be on the plus side, and we're going to talk about that coming up. For now, Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, a sad reminder today that despite the cold conditions, thin ice is still a concern. Police say a man died after falling through the ice of Lake Ontario. This happened off the Toronto Islands near Lagoon Road and Center Island Parkway around 9 this morning. That's where the man in his 70s was located deceased. Police have issued a public safety alert in response to his death, calling on residents to stay off frozen lakes, rivers, and ponds for their own safety. In Mississauga, police are investigating after 2 people were found dead inside a townhouse unit.
Detectives haven't released their identities, but neighbors say a couple lived in the home. CTV John Musselman joins us from the neighborhood near Credit Valley Road and Air Mills Parkway. John.
Well, Nathan, detectives, police for that matter, are saying very little about this case. But as you mentioned, neighbors say they lived in the end unit. They've been here about 4 or 5 years, and police have been to this address before. The bodies of 2 people were removed from this townhouse unit late this morning. Police were called to this address near Erin Mills and Credit Valley Road just before 6 a.m. Peel Regional Police released few details, saying it was due to the sensitive nature of the call. We don't know the identity or ages of the people removed from the townhouse, although investigators say there is no threat to public safety. Neighbors tell CTV News a husband and wife live in Unit 82. They have lived here for more than 4 or 5 years.
Surprised. It's not anything that anybody would ever want to learn about on any given morning, right? It's just unexpected. It's kind of surprising to see all the action happening this morning at like 6 a.m. In a quiet neighborhood, it's always a little bit surprising.
I was not surprised. Like I said, the police have been here over the last couple of years. They've been 3, 4, maybe 5 times.
This neighbor says the woman who lives in the unit has been dealing with health issues and personal support workers would visit regularly.
It's a nice neighborhood, and, you know, people are friendly, and just over the years, though, there's been issues with it.
Meanwhile, Peel police say the investigation is ongoing. The bodies were taken from the scene early this afternoon for further examination.
And there is a police cruiser stationed here in front of the townhouse unit. Again, the identity of the victims have not been released yet. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, John. Also this evening, a man is fighting for his life after he was found with stab wounds in a burning apartment downtown. Emergency crews were called to a building on Sherbourne near Shooter just after 11 a.m. for a fire. First responders rescued 2 people from a 5th-floor unit. Police say 1 suffered stab wounds. Paramedics said they transported a patient with critical injuries. The incident and the fire remain under investigation.
A Toronto police officer is in hospital after their cruiser was rammed by a vehicle fleeing a robbery in North York last night. Police were investigating near Bathurst and Shepherd around 7 last night when the vehicle struck the marked cruiser. 3 suspects tried to run from the scene but were arrested a short time later. An officer in the scout car was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. No word yet on any charges.
The city is hoping to get more people on board the TTC by freezing fares and boosting service this year.
But it comes at a cost. The transit board signed off on the spending today, but City Council will ultimately have to decide whether to green light the big budget. CTV's Natalie Johnson reports.
On any given day, hop on Toronto Transit and
trying to get to work was a bit of a nightmare sometimes.
Just today, he has an interview. We went on the subway and the one line was closed because of the mechanical delay.
I'd like to get booted off a streetcar or a subway less frequently.
The TTC chair acknowledging that can't be the new normal.
There shouldn't be an expectation that you go on the subway and something goes wrong. We're trying to get away from that.
Bring in the 2025 TTC budget approved by the Transit Board today. A $2.8 billion spending plan that freezes fares while increasing service levels, promising subway service every 5 minutes on lines 1 and 2 and every 6 minutes on line 4, less bus bunching and cleaner, better maintained transit stations. They asked the city $85 million more than last year to make it all happen.
It's clear that Toronto, unlike every other big city in the world, does not have predictable, sustainable operational funding and predictable and sustainable capital funding.
The chair touting that if approved by council, the infusion would be the biggest investment in the TTC in a decade.
This will be remembered as the budget that the TTC got its groove back.
I wouldn't characterize the TTC as having its groove back. I think it's too early to say that because if you talk to the average TTC rider, they're not satisfied with the TTC yet.
There is an accountability factor here in that I'm coming before you and saying we are spending this money and we expect these problems to be fixed.
The TTC's request for a 6.5% increase to the operating budget comes as the city is set to unveil its big picture spending plan, the details of which, including the proposed property tax hike, will be unveiled here at City Hall on Monday. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
As we head into the weekend, the TTC has updated its list of reduced speed zones on the subway. There are currently 13 stretches of Line 1 and 2 where trains have been operating more slowly as a safety measure. The transit agency says it does so to keep service moving while tracks are in need of upgrades or maintenance.
And Metrolinx is advising GO train customers of service adjustments on the Lakeshore West line this weekend. On Saturday and Sunday, trains will operate on a 30-minute schedule to Aldershot GO and West Harbour GO, and some trips won't stop at Exhibition GO. Officials say the changes are being made to accommodate critical track work.
Canada's labour market ended 2024 on a high note. Stats Canada released its labour force survey for December. It shows 91,000 jobs were added nationwide last month, far exceeding economists' forecasts. There was also a surprise drop in the unemployment rate to 6.7%. The report notes it was in the context of slowing population growth. Most of the jobs added were full-time, although wages grew at their slowest pace since May 2022. Still, experts say the country's job market is proving to be resilient.
The jobs created in one industry means you've got more wages, more spending power flowing through the economy, and that's going to create jobs in other industries, the things that workers spend money on, for example. So this is a sign, I think, that we have turned the corner from the near recession we had, a year and some ago. and are heading in the forward direction now.
CIBC senior economist Andrew Grantham says there's still some slack in the economy, with unemployment 1% higher than a year ago. He's predicting another interest rate cut from the Bank of Canada later this month. Now to the latest on the Liberal Party leadership race. CTV News has learned former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney is expected to announce his candidacy next week.
This comes as another potential candidate says she's not running, and the party sets the ground rules for the vote. Here's CTV's Judy Trin.
Candidates will just have 13 days to decide if they're in or out.
Belle journée d'Ottawa.
5 days after the Prime Minister announced he was quitting, another Justin Trudeau ally says she's not interested in his job.
I think that our chances were really, really high. But the reality is I'm foreign minister at a time that is crucial in our history, and Canadians are anxious.
Both Joly and Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc say they need to focus on Donald Trump. Meanwhile, the Liberal Party's new rules have set the cost of competing at $350,000, more than 4 times what it was previously.
You want to set a high entry fee so that you discourage also-rans, you discourage carpetbaggers, and you discourage special interest groups.
After a public inquiry revealed concerns about foreign interference in a 2019 Liberal nomination contest, there are new rules on who can vote for the next leader. They must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, at least 14 years old, and registered as a Liberal Party member by January 27th. MP Chandra Arya believes he can raise the money to run, but says the steep entry fee is unfair.
If they want to support the Bay Street type people, supported by the Bay Street type people, if that is the objective with which they're going to formulate the laws, that is the kind of decisions Canadians don't like.
Of the expected top contenders, polls show former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has the most name recognition, ahead of former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney and former BC Premier Christy Clark. Despite a public breakup, Freeland's ties to Trudeau could hurt her chances.
Separating yourself from the Prime Minister, when he's still the Prime Minister, will be an added challenge for any incumbent cabinet minister who decides to run for leader.
The party will vote for its new leader on March 9th and decide who will be the next Prime Minister of Canada. That's just 8 weeks away. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
To the latest on the effort to fend off a tariff threat from incoming U.S. President Donald Trump.
Today, Premier Doug Ford revealing more details of plans to take his appeal south of the border. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with the details. Siobhan.
Well, Doug Ford has spent a decent amount of time on American TV screens lately, talking to U.S. networks, trying to really talk about the importance of the relationship between Canada and the U.S. Next month, though, he'll pack a bag and hop on a plane. All of Canada's premiers are headed to Washington, D.C. on February 12th to meet with key members of what will then be the Trump administration. Members of Congress will be part of these meetings, and business leaders, too. The goal is to really emphasize the strong trading relationship with Canada and the U.S. Those conversations, mind you, could have a very different tone if tariffs are in place. Doug Ford's office says he's actually arriving a day early on the 11th for his own round of meetings. We're hearing today that some premiers will return to the U.S. Capitol between February 20th and 22nd for the annual meeting of U.S. governors. This afternoon, Ford welcomed Canada's ambassador to the U.S. talking about how to protect Canadian jobs. Then at an event in Cambridge this morning, the Premier says he's ready to continue that push with whoever's leading the federal Liberals or the federal government.
It's a Team Canada approach. We're all working together. I was talking to the federal government yesterday on a few issues, and we're going to meet the Prime Minister on Wednesday.
That meeting with all the premiers and the Prime Minister on Wednesday lands just 5 days before Donald Trump returns to the White House. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. A New York judge handed Donald Trump an unconditional discharge today at his hush money trial sentencing hearing. The president-elect was convicted of falsifying business records over payments to his then lawyer to reimburse a $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels. It was alleged he'd done so to keep her from speaking out before the 2016 election about an affair, something Trump has denied. With no jail time, fine, or other penalty ordered, Trump will still be the first convicted felon to hold the White House, but legal experts say there won't be much of an impact otherwise.
there was really nothing at stake. And I think you were dealing with a very powerful, entitled person who is not afraid of who's not afraid of any of them, and who knows that they may even have some reason to fear him.
The judge said he opted for a discharge to avoid encroaching on the highest office in the land. Trump has indicated he'll appeal. Federal prosecutors dropped criminal cases against Trump over the 2020 election and his handling of confidential documents after he won re-election.
5 major fires burning in the Los Angeles area have now killed at least 10 people and chased more than 150,000 from their homes.
Entire communities are gone as exhausted firefighters work to save what they can. CTV's Andrew Johnson has the latest.
The sun rose Friday over Los Angeles neighborhoods that are now unrecognizable.
Mars would be more habitable than this place right now, so it's crazy. There's absolutely nothing.
People are trickling back to hardest-hit Pacific Palisades, trying to retrieve anything they can from what used to be their homes.
That is the living room. That's the front entrance.
A widow is hoping her wedding ring survived inside this safe. It did. Discoveries like that bring a bit of light to the darkest times.
I don't know how we're going to come back from this. I don't even know where to start.
Nadia Williamson from Saskatchewan and her husband lost their home, their passports burned, and unable to travel, Nadia says they don't know where to go next.
One kind of hour at a time. We just need to be safe at this point. I think we're just in survival safety mode.
Some families are dealing with not only the loss of property, but also life.
And there was a police car and I flagged him and I said, "My brother's in the house, I need help."
Her brother, Victor Shaw, didn't make it. He was found dead with a garden hose in his hand. Close to 10,000 firefighters in Los Angeles County have made significant gains in slowing the spread of the major fires. Calmer Santa Ana winds are again providing a reprieve.
We were very hopeful that we could turn a corner on this fire, and we did. We gained some containment.
As BC, Ontario, and Alberta confirm they are sending resources south, a Quebec-based Super Scooper aircraft already involved in the firefight had to be grounded after it hit a drone flying in restricted airspace, the collision punching a fist-sized hole in its wing.
Flying a drone in the fire traffic area is not only dangerous, but it's illegal.
The Super Scooper is expected to be repaired and ready to fly by Monday, in a battle against these fires expected to last for weeks. Andrew Johnson, CTV News.
And Andrew mentioned the Canadian firefighters and resources already helping out in California. And today, Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow said the city is gearing up to send some assistance as well.
What is happening in California is devastating. So I've asked our fire chief, and he said, yes, we have 100 firefighters on standby, ready to go, would not impact on the service in Toronto.
Mayor Chow says as soon as authorities in California give the green light, that contingent of firefighters is ready to head out and help.
Meanwhile, several weather agencies confirmed today 2024 was the hottest year on record.
Climate change, including increased heat, extended droughts, and a thirsty atmosphere, has been a key driver in the increased risk and extent of wildfires.
New records have been set in each of the last 10 years, but this is the first time temperatures climb more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. That's a key threshold set out in the 2015 Paris Climate Pact. Scientists point to the burning of fossil fuels as the key driver.
Coming up, a window into one of the darkest times in history. The Auschwitz exhibition opens at the ROM, the only Canadian stop, showcasing hundreds of original artifacts. We have a preview still ahead.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas is coming to a close for another year. We take a look at some of the latest gizmos and gadgets that one day may come to the marketplace, from robot puppies to flying cars. All of that story, that's just ahead.
So snow is on the way for tonight, and yes, we may have a little bit of shoveling to do tomorrow morning. A reminder to take it easy. The good news is the snow is expected to taper off late morning, and then we're in for a pretty nice weekend overall. Mild temperatures, dry for the most part. Enjoy this because cold air does return next week. We're going to take you through your long-range forecast coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
The Consumer Electronics Show is one of the largest trade gatherings in the world, showcasing products that one day may go mainstream.
The four-day event in Las Vegas wraps up today, and it's been another year of influence involving robotics and artificial intelligence. Pat Foran has a review on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. Robots continue to be a huge part of the Consumer Show, and it's likely they'll play a larger role in our lives in the future. AI is also helping develop products that can apply lipstick and clean your ears. CES is all about the latest consumer products, and representatives from companies are here hoping to create buzz for their gizmos and gadgets, with more than 150,000 people expected to attend from around the world. There are robots that can be used in unsafe areas to take photos and video.
We can do security work, we can do inspection work.
There are also emotional support robots that can interact with people who are lonely or isolated.
In the morning, you can wake up and Romeo will say, "Good morning." And when you're back from work, Romeo will say, "Welcome home."
Robot puppies can be used with dementia patients who are no longer able to care for their own pets. These robots look and feel realistic, and humanoid robots are starting to look and sound more like actual people. They could be used to give information or directions in malls or airports.
I think there's something different about interacting with a human-like robot versus something that looks like a garbage can with legs.
There is a device which can perfectly apply your lipstick. It uses robotics and AI. And these headphones aren't to listen to music. Instead, they can clean your ears. The flying car always seems to show up at CES in one form or another. This vehicle can transform into a small helicopter if you get stuck in traffic.
You can fly in the air to see a different world, right?
There are also smart spicers that can add spice to recipes based exactly on your tastes, and exercise chairs for people who may have difficulty working out on their own.
This is particularly good for elderly.
While the show is about incorporating technology into everyday products we use, there are also critics who say sometimes the innovations aren't really necessary.
When we saw that your washing machine can take a phone call, that was exactly the question that came to our head. Who wants to take a phone call from their washing machine?
Some of these products may never make it to the production stage, but others could be something you have in your home in the years ahead. And here is something you probably didn't know you needed. If your coffee or tea is too hot, you can get a device that sits on the edge of your cup and it blows cool air until it's the perfect temperature. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
So let me get this straight. Cold air will blow to make your coffee cool. I can't even get that out of my head.
Pat's already bought 3 of them.
This is too much. Anyway, we're looking forward to weather that is seasonal.
You know what would be useful? Maybe a robot that would go ahead and shovel your driveway for you. We could use that tomorrow probably because we're waiting for it. There is some snow coming. We're expecting these flurries to fly at any moment. This is system snow this time around, so it is a little more widespread, unlike the localized lake effect bands we had earlier this week. I want to talk about a system that's also impacting our neighbors to the south, a big low pressure system in the southern United States, bringing snow from Texas all the way to the Carolinas, and yes, even impacting places like Georgia and Florida. Amarillo, Texas, picking up more snow than it's seen in the last 10 years. And as you can see here on the satellite and radar, this is a big area of low pressure, and the north end of it is merging with another system and bringing us the snow here in southern Ontario. It's just starting to inch its way into the GTA. Maybe you're seeing light snow out your window right now, and if not, it's coming. It's on its way. We are anticipating a couple of centimeters of snow here locally. I do want to point out that Durham region, right along the shoreline of Lake Ontario into Prince Edward County, under a winter weather travel advisory. And in this area, 5 to 10 centimeters of snow is expected overnight tonight and into tomorrow. So just be careful if you do have to travel along Highway 401 in that stretch. Elsewhere, closer to 3, maybe 5 centimeters of snow expected for Toronto, just enough to create create a little bit of a nuisance on the roads late tonight. But here's the thing. There's about 10 p.m. We're in the thick of it at that point. This is going to taper off as we make our way through the overnight and especially into Saturday morning. So by the time most are waking up and heading out the door to kickstart the weekend, the snow should be gone. Maybe some lingering flurries. Cloud cover, then it starts to break up. We could enjoy some sunny breaks, especially in the late afternoon. Sunday looks like a mostly cloudy day at this point, with a few flurries possible and maybe a little bit of late day snow into Monday. Light stuff. Temperature-wise, what an improvement across southern Ontario, central parts of the province too. There is another area of cold air making its way over northwestern Ontario. That's not going to impact us. The next one is, however. -4 is our forecast low for overnight tonight, feeling like -6 tomorrow at a glance. How about this? Daytime high, 1 degree on the plus side. So we've gone from well below seasonal to slightly above. But again, just don't get too used to it because another polar vortex extending south means that it's going to be cold just in time for the middle part of next week, let's say. So weekend looks mild. Get outside, enjoy, maybe do some skiing, some snowboarding. Flurries in the forecast for Monday, Tuesday. Monday is still mild, but look at those overnight lows. Tuesday, Wednesday, back into the minus double digits. Feeling colder than that once you factor in the winds. We could climb back up to freezing, though, by next Friday. That's your look at the forecast for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Also tonight, can a Gerard Butler action thriller sequel unseat the Lion King prequel? A peek at what's new at the box office this weekend.
This year marks a somber anniversary. It's been 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz.
The Royal Ontario Museum has a new exhibit that opened today dedicated to understanding and education. CTV's Jessica Smith has the details.
Our mission is to help people understand the past, make sense of the present, and come together to shape a shared future.
Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, is a new exhibit at the Royal Ontario Museum, with a focus on the history of Auschwitz, one of the most historical sites of the Holocaust. Louis Fierro, director of Muselia, a group that worked with the museum to bring the exhibit to Canada, says their goal was to offer information for the public to experience it in their own way.
When you come to the exhibition, you will see that actually what we do is we present the facts, also almost in a very scientific way. We never easily moralize, we never point with a finger, we don't tell you what to think, what to feel.
The exhibit features over 500 original artifacts never seen before in Canada, providing a window into a dark time in history.
I truly hope that the exhibition might become also a tool for some people to understand how this place could come to existence.
If we don't remember, we're bound to repeat. It sounds trite, but this is a very powerful display, exhibit, and very moving.
Toronto is the only Canadian stop for the touring exhibition.
Some people come with a deep connection to the material, that they're either children or grandchildren of Holocaust survivors. Other people may not know much about it, but they're compelled to understand the history of the Holocaust, the history of the Second World War, and specifically Auschwitz.
Over the next few months, a number of events and guest speakers will be coming through the museum to help share stories and lived experiences.
The Royal Ontario Museum offers free programming for students here in Ontario, as well as programming directed at seniors, and runs here until September 1st, 2025. Jessica Smith, CTV News, Toronto.
Respiratory viruses are putting increased pressure on hospitals as we start this new year. More than 13% of lab tests for COVID and flu came back positive during the week of December 29th to January. That's considered a moderate level. More than 1,000 hospital beds were occupied by COVID patients in that time, and 8 people died. 415 people were in hospital with the flu, 346 with RSV. Meanwhile, British Columbia is bringing back masking requirements in healthcare settings as respiratory viruses climb.
We see people who are sick. We see a lot of people who are sick. So they could transmit things to us, we could transmit it to other people. And it makes a lot of sense to remind us of the benefit of masks, especially now in the middle of respiratory virus season.
The change took effect on Monday with some exceptions in place, including for children under 5 and those visiting a loved one's room. Health experts say it's still advised to get your COVID and flu shots if you haven't yet this season.
Also in BC, a 13-year-old girl with avian flu has been discharged after spending several weeks in hospital. The teen was taken to a pediatric ICU with respiratory failure and pneumonia back on November 8th. She tested positive for H5N1 a day later. In a statement, her family says they are grateful to have their daughter back home.
Fans of the Jonas Brothers may be surprised to learn they were in Toronto this week. The trio were spotted and posed for a photo on Tuesday at a Yorkville Indian restaurant called Adrak. The Jonas Brothers haven't specified why they were in Toronto, but a number of social media posts from Joe and Nick suggested they may have been working on some kind of project on a film set.
The Weeknd has claimed the first spot on Billboard's Top 100 Songs list of the 21st century so far. Blinding Lights by Toronto's own The Weeknd spent a record 57 weeks on top of the charts when it was released in 2020. It's now claimed the #1 slot on Billboard's ranking of hits over the last 25 years. The recognition for the singer comes as he prepares to release his next album, Hurry Up Tomorrow, later this month.
And today, BTS member J-Hope announced plans for his first ever solo world tour. The South Korean pop star titled the tour Hope on the Stage. It'll start next month with stops across Asia, the U.S., and Mexico. Currently, no dates appear to be planned for Canada.
It's expected to be a quieter weekend at the box office with a new movie on track to claim the top spot.
I tend to hurt people's feelings.
You'll fit right in.
Gerard Butler stars in Den of Thieves 2, Pantera, and Deadline forecasts the action sequel will open at #1 with $14 million across North America. Current tracking suggests it'll face the most competition from last week's winner, Mufasa the Lion King, as well as Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
After the break, some major changes on the sports landscape. Former TFC assistant Robin Fraser returns as head coach, and Zach Hyman buys the OHL's Brantford Bulldogs. Details just ahead.
I just wish something would come to a stop because innocent people are getting hurt.
Updating our top stories, Toronto police were investigating a trio of shootings over the span of 24 hours in Scarborough linked to the tow truck industry. One incident last night saw a man sent to hospital with serious injuries. Police and the province have promised to crack down on escalating violence in the industry.
Trust me, this is not about you. This is not about me. This is only about him.
A Toronto mother speaking out as police try to locate her son and his father as part of a parental abduction investigation. Camila Vilas Boas says her ex-husband, 48-year-old Kapil Sunak, went to India with 3-year-old Valentino and never came back. Police say sharing information about the case could prompt action to bring Valentino home. And remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
Stocks took a pounding today on diminished expectations of interest rate cuts. Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the details in business.
Hello there. Canadian and U.S. stocks were down more than 1% today. That's after a gangbusters employment report south of the border threatened to discourage the Fed from pushing through many more reductions in borrowing costs. The U.S. economy added more than 250,000 jobs in December, and the unemployment rate fell to 4.1%. The Wall Street Journal warned that, quote, this shuts the door on an interest rate cut at the end of this month. Bank of America thinks the Fed may be done cutting rates altogether. Canada posted a big gain of 91,000 jobs, but that may not rule out more rate reductions. Carl Shamata, market strategist at Corpay, said the Bank of Canada will try to build a, quote, firewall against economic weakness if incoming U.S. President Donald Trump follows through on his tariff threats. The Canadian dollar traded at 69.3 U.S. cents, down about 1/5 cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $75.75 U.S. a barrel, up $2.51. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil, $60.92, up 66 cents. And the TSX Composite ended at 24,767.73, down just under 306 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
All eyes are on the U.S. Supreme Court after a hearing on whether to uphold a law effectively banning TikTok south of the border. The social media platform and its China-based parent company ByteDance argue the law violates free speech. The U.S. government says TikTok could be used by Beijing as a tool for spying or political manipulation. President-elect Trump has called for the January 19th shutdown deadline to be paused, saying he'd like to find a political solution.
A proposed lawsuit alleges Costco illegally overcharged online customers, misleading them over how it charges for shipping and handling. The case was filed in Montreal. It accuses the retailer of violating a section of Canada's Competition Act over a practice known as double ticketing. That's where a customer is charged the higher of two or more prices on a given product. CTV News has requested a comment from Costco but has not heard back yet.
A new report says the cost of rent in Canada is dropping. Rentals.ca and Urban Nation says the average asking rent in Canada in December was down 3.2% from the previous year to just over $2,100 a month. In Toronto, rents dropped by more than 7%, but were still higher than the national average at more than $2,600. And across the province, rents are down an average of 4.7% to just over $2,300.
A popular pie shop in Kensington Market will be allowed to keep an addition it installed for diners during the pandemic.
We just need a little help with this. Keep us in Kensington Market.
Mayor Olivia Chow visited Wanda's Pie in the Sky today to let them know that the bake shop's South Addition will be allowed to stay. The extra 15-seat eating area was constructed during COVID to comply with pandemic regulations, but since then the city had issued an order demanding the landlord either remove the structure or apply for a proper building permit. Chow says the city will work with the owners to make sure the structure meets all legal requirements.
Small businesses are struggling because of the price of food, labor costs, etc. So City of Toronto really should be helping support these small businesses rather than put barriers in their way.
The mayor says the city is going to see how some structures built by small businesses during the pandemic could be grandfathered into existing bylaws to allow them to stay up. More than 2,000 people had signed an online petition calling on the city to allow the eating area addition to remain.
Toronto FC's named a new head coach. Former assistant coach Robin Fraser will take on the role. Fraser was an assistant in Toronto from 2015 to 2019 and was part of TFC's glory days, including the club's 2017 season when they won the MLS Cup. He also had a distinguished playing career, during which he was twice named MLS Defender of the Year. The 58-year-old left Toronto to coach the Colorado Rapids. After initial success there, he was fired in 2023 when the injury-plagued club was in last place in the league. Toronto's been without a coach since John Herdman stepped down in November.
Boucher, the extra pass, Mitchell in the corner, Walter. Excellent job.
The Raptors were in Cleveland last night to take on the league-leading Cavaliers. Toronto led this one most of the night, but the Cavaliers had a strong finish to win the game, 132-126. Next up for the Raps is a visit to Detroit to play the Pistons tomorrow night.
Chatfield pins on it. Here comes Nylander again. Another breakaway. William Nylander in, scores!
The Leafs were also in action last night, jumping out to an early 2-0 lead against Carolina in the first period. But the Hurricanes stormed back to win 4-3, ending the Leafs' 5-game winning streak. The Buds returned to action Saturday night against the Vancouver Canucks.
Edmonton Oilers winger Zach Hyman is making headlines today for reportedly buying an Ontario Hockey League team, the Brantford Bulldogs. TSN is reporting Hyman and his family are purchasing the team from Ottawa's Senators owner Michael Enlauer. According to TSN's hockey insider Darren Dreger, the sale is pending OHL approval, and an official announcement could come as soon as Monday.
Just ahead, the benefits of the bitter cold. Ottawa's Rideau Canal Skateway opens to the public on Saturday, the earliest opening in 6 years. Stay with us. The nation's capital is celebrating an annual hallmark for the season.
Ottawa preparing to open part of the Rideau Canal to skaters tomorrow.
When you look out on a weekend and you see tens of thousands of people on there, it's pretty cool.
A 4-kilometer stretch of the skateway will open at 8 Saturday morning. Mild weather meant a short skating season last year, and the world's largest skating rink did not open at all the winter before. Officials say this year the cold is expected to stay, and even more sections of the skateway could open.
That's why cold is a good thing.
It is. Well, we still have cold, and we've got some added snow as well.
Yes, and I think snow will be a good thing for those who enjoy some wintertime sports and activities, too. Fresh snow coming this evening. In fact, some areas already seeing it. Here's one more look at the satellite and radar. A reminder that we're looking at a couple of centimeters of fresh snow as a result of this system. There is a winter weather travel advisory in effect for the east end of the GTA, so Pickering over toward Prince Edward County. There, 5 to 10 centimeters of snow could fall. Waking up tomorrow morning, if you're an early riser, you might still see a few flurries, but otherwise it's going to be a dry day. It's also going to be a mild day. 1 degree is what we're forecasting for the high, just a slight wind chill. It's a mild weekend overall, and then the colder air, it's going to return through the middle part of next week. Michelle and Nathan.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's it for us, but you can join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison, who just finished her first week back, and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night. Flew by.
Just like